Welcome back, everyone, to the Pokemon Regional Championships here in beautiful San Jose, California. It has been a long, grueling weekend. We started with over 200 players, and we are now down to 2 players for our final matchup. My name is Evan Latt, and I am joined for this final match by my good friend, 3-time world champion, Ray the Stingray Rizzo. Ray, so good to see you again. How excited are you for this finals?
Evan, I am really excited for this finals. We've seen Enosh, he's still undefeated in best of threes throughout this entire tournament, and Gavin has also had an amazing performance. We saw him on stream just now. I mean, the reads he's making, the plays he's making, these hard reads, and he's just playing flawlessly as well, so this should be a really good finals.
Yeah, I mean, Gavin really is playing like it's 2013, aka the last time both of these players found themselves in a finals situation. Of course, that was the 2013 Nationals finals. Both those players on your screen, Enosh Shachar and Gavin Michaels. Gavin, of course, won that finals. Actually, the first time that I ever cast a Pokemon match. So it's a throwback in so many different ways here.
It really is, and even ignoring the players that played, this format is a lot like 2013, where it's so much slower. There's a lot of bulk on the Pokemon, a lot of Trick Room. It's very much like the 2013 format, and there's no surprise that the players who excelled at 2013 are here again in the finals for a rematch. And Enosh looking to get revenge on Gavin for knocking him out of Nationals in 2013.
Yeah, I don't know if you were able to hear it over here when I was talking to Gavin, but basically, Gavin said, Enosh gets to finals a lot, and he's got a lot of second-place trophies. I'm not so sure if Gavin expects that to change this time around.
Yeah, Gavin talking a little bit of smack before the match because, of course, both these players are good friends. Enosh, incredibly successful as a player, as is Gavin. So a little bit of jabs from Gavin there, keeping the energy high and keeping things fun and enjoyable, because both players will take home quite a bit of CP, even if they lose. So
yeah, Enosh on your screen right now, he was undefeated in Swiss and is still undefeated throughout the top cup bracket, or else he would have gone home. But as you can see, regionals runner-up, top 4 regionals in 2015, top 16 worlds, top 8 worlds. It looks like he in deference to his opponent, has left out the runner-up in 2013 Nationals.
Yeah, Enosh not wanting to remember that, especially right before this rematch. So pretty funny to see that. Yeah,
of course, we've seen Enosh's team quite a bit over the course of the weekend. The Kartana, the Crocodile, the Porygon 2, Tapu Fini, Alolan Marowak, and the Araquanid. Really fun, really bulky, sort of stally, slow team. That's exactly how Enosh wants to play the game. Oh, good luck.
That shows the great sportsmanship from both of these players.
Gavin took all of the luck. All of the luck. All right, well, Gavin is on your right-hand side of the stream. He is the 2013 Nationals champion, #1 with a bullet on his list of accomplishments. The last time he faced Enosh in a finals. Top 8 at Worlds in 2012, runner-up regionals 2014, and 3rd place regionals in 2013. Back here in a regionals finals.
Yep, and Gavin also using a Trick Room focused team, just like Enosh. However, Enosh isn't as hard focused on Trick Room. Enosh can play with Trick Room, also without Trick Room, whereas Gavin, he really needs Trick Room up. However, in this matchup against Enosh, where both players have the Trick Room options, it'll be really interesting to see how Gavin decides to play this team and how Enosh decides to play his, because you can always reverse Trick Room. You could bring a bunch of slow Pokemon and not bring a Trick Roomer and just expect your opponent to set it up for you. There's so many different things that can happen in this match, so it'll be really interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, so much going on in this match. Not only is it a rematch of 2013, but they are also representing their 2 coasts, the East Coast versus the West Coast. Enosh sort of trying to invade the West Coast regional, coming out from Pennsylvania to take on the California's own Gavin Michaels.
Yeah, so it's a classic match of East versus West. I'm from the East Coast, so I'm not supposed to be biased.
Same.
But can't say I'm not rooting for Enosh. Enosh being from my home state of New Jersey.
I am rooting for a good game.
I'm rooting for 3 games here. That's
3
what I'm
good
hoping
games.
for. But as we get into team preview, there is...
Gavin's already selected his Pokemon.
Yeah, he must already have planned out how he wants to handle this matchup against Enosh. But a couple of key factors here. Gavin's Hariyama has a really good matchup against Enosh's Kartana, Crocodile, Porygon, hitting them all super effective. And then it has knockoff for the Marowak. So Hariyama, it could be a big threat here for Gavin if it's able to get multiple attacks off against any of those Pokemon. However, Gavin does have to watch out for the Araquanid and the Tapu Fini. Both have great matchups against the Hariyama, and Gavin's team doesn't have as many answers to those two Pokemon, Magnezone being the big answer, but because it's choice specs, it's going to have a really hard time playing around the Crocodile, playing around the Marowak. So it'll be really interesting to see how Gavin plays around Enosh's really bulky and really type diverse team.
All right, well, we are going into game 1 of our finals matchup here. Enosh Shachar versus Gavin Michaels. Huge matchup here. Both of these players, you know, it's so important to get that game 1 advantage in the finals so you can make some of those riskier plays. You can feel more confident. And it looks like Enosh decides the Crocodile and the Tapu Fini are the right choices, whereas Gavin has gone for the Hariyama and the Porygon 2. Like you mentioned, Gavin identifying that Hariyama might be a very important Pokemon for him, but also taking that Intimidate.
Yeah, it's going to get Intimidated, so it won't do as much damage. It may still be enough to knock out Crocodile. It depends how it's trained, but Tapu Fini does not mind that Hariyama matchup at all.
Yeah, and when we were talking with Gavin for the interview after his last game, he really loves leading this Hariyama and Porygon 2 under the assumption that his opponents are just not prepared for Fake Out plus Trick Room. So looks like Gavin has gotten it again, and unless Enosh has another way to take out this Porygon 2, Gavin can guarantee Trick Room.
He can, but he also doesn't know what Enosh has in the back. Enosh has some really slow Pokemon that can take advantage of that, like the Araquanid. So it'll be interesting to see if Gavin decides to go for that Trick Room. You have to imagine he will, just because he's got Pokemon.
Ooh.
Oh, there's the Araquanid.
Yeah, so Enosh is just taunting Gavin, saying, please set this Trick Room up for me. Fake Out will connect to the Tapu Fini, so Gavin will not take any damage this turn, and Porygon 2 does go for the Trick Room. So Enosh's Araquanid is in the field with the Trick Room, and Gavin's doing Enosh's work for him.
Yeah, and Hariyama can't touch either of these Pokemon. Araquanid resisting fighting, Hariyama also intimidated, and since Araquanid has a Z-Crystal, knockoff will just not do a whole lot of damage to it, and of course Tapu Fini resisting both knockoff and close combat.
Yeah, really rough position here for Hariyama and that Porygon 2. Of course, that Porygon 2 also got an attack boost, so not going to be dealing as much damage as it might want to. Gavin did bring the Magnezone this time around, so Magnezone in the back and switching out the Porygon 2, so we will see the entire team for Gavin. It is going to be his own Araquanid. And Enosh showing his tech there, the stockpile on his Araquanid. We saw that last time he was on stream. No special attacks really threaten that after a stockpile. Of course, Magnezone may be able to deal some good damage with super effective attacks, but that Araquanid with stockpile is very scary.
Yeah, and it does a lot of damage, so it could even just attack Magnezone and not even have to take something in return if it's able to do enough damage. Of course, it depends how each Pokemon is trained, but if I'm Enosh, I'm really happy with my current position. He's already seen all of Gavin's team. He knows both these Water-type Pokemon can really handle what Gavin has if he can just take out that Magnezone.
Yeah, Magnezone is the sitting duck on Gavin's side. If Enosh knows that that is a choice specs Magnezone, leaves it wide open to Araquanid, a liquidation possibly.
Yeah, and there's also no threat of Protect since Magnezone is choice. Hariyama may not have Protect since it has Feint, and Porygon almost never has Protect.
Well, Gavin's Araquanid will go first and get the Z move on. The Hydro Vortex is going to try and deal some damage back to Enosh's Pokemon, just trying to get his own nukes on the field. Will target down the Tapu Fini, so bringing Tapu Fini down the drain, sucking it down through the Whirlpool, dealing a lot of damage even though it was resisted, but not a KO, while Enosh is just setting up that stockpile.
Yeah, so if Enosh takes this Thunderbolt here from the Magnezone, we'll see who he targets.
Yeah, it is the Thunderbolt from Magnezone onto Tapu Fini. So Gavin gets the KO onto Tapu Fini, really worried about that Pokemon, possibly worried about a Marowak switch in there.
Yeah, really good turn for Gavin there, taking out one of those water Pokemon. However, Araquanid's getting set up with the stockpile, and it threatens so much damage onto that Magnezone slot, so it's going to be tough here for Gavin.
All right, well, Enosh does have that Crocodile to offer crucial Intimidate support against the Araquanid. I don't believe, yeah, so Gavin does not have that Intimidate support, which is definitely a bonus in the Araquanid mirror.
Yeah, but it all comes down to taking out this Magnezone because Gavin's Araquanid can't touch Enosh's, the Hariyama can't touch Enosh's Araquanid, and Porygon, unless it has Toxic, it can't touch the Araquanid, so it all comes down to taking out this Magnezone. If Enosh can do that, then he can heal back up with a potential Z stockpile and just sweep from there.
All right, well, Gavin's going to retreat the Magnezone to protect it for now, getting another attack boost on his Porygon 2 as it switches in. Crocodile going for the Protect, trying to avoid a liquidation from Gavin's Araquanid. Enosh goes for the lunge onto Gavin's Araquanid, making sure that it is not going to be able to deal that much damage with its physical attacks here, and the liquidation is going into the Protect on Crocodile. So big difference there on these Araquanids as well. Enosh showing the lunge to help even further in the mirror.
Yeah, so Leech Life will heal you, but since Enosh has that Z stockpile, doesn't really need recovery as much as maybe Gavin might feel his Araquanid needs. So goes for the lunge, which has that support of lowering the Araquanid's attack.
All right, well, Araquanid is going to be able to get off a liquidation at -2, not able to pick up the KO, while Enosh is going to get his lunge going onto Araquanid again, dropping its attack again. So now at -3, I believe, Pori 2 will be able to pick up the KO onto Crocodile with this Ice Beam, though. So looks like there is the chance that Gavin may be able to stall out this Trick Room like he just did and use that Magnezone in the back to take out the Araquanid.
Yeah, Enosh already losing 2 Pokemon, so he, his back is against the wall, but there's the Marowak, so that's why he was focusing down Gavin's Araquanid there. If he can take that out, Marowak can just completely wall the Magnezone.
Yeah, having that Marowak in the back, not getting ahead of himself, keeping it safe until the very final, the last time he could bring it out. We saw Gavin keep trying to go for that prediction, trying to catch the Marowak on a switch, and Enosh playing heads up, not going to let that Marowak go down for free.
No, and it'll be interesting to see because Hariyama is in the back, and it does have knockoff. However, if it doesn't have Protect, the Marowak can just protect that turn, and Araquanid can go after the Hariyama, but also Hariyama could fake out the Araquanid, and then that wastes Marowak's Protect. So there's still a lot of mind games that can come up, but
so
here we
many
see the Shadow Bone.
Shadow Bone from Marowak. It is enough to pick up the KO onto Gavin's Araquanid. So the Araquanid is down. Enosh goes on the offensive with his own liquidation onto Porygon 2. Deals some decent damage with a critical hit. Porygon 2, though, going for the Trick Room again on Gavin's side. So wants to slow everything down. I'm not sure. Have we seen the 4th Pokemon from Gavin?
He's got Magnezone and Hariyama.
Hariyama, that's right. Yeah, so Hariyama here out in the Trick Room to threaten that Marowak then.
Yeah, so this is where some mind games can come in. Does Hariyama go for a fake out onto Araquanid expecting Marowak to protect, or does Hariyama just go for the knockoff onto Marowak and be at risk to the Araquanid attacking it with a liquidation?
Oh, these are the moments that you can see it on their faces that cause you to think way too hard about a single turn, and these are the crossroads in a game where you win or you lose, just by virtue of one read that you make.
Yeah, exactly. But even so, Enosh still has his Araquanid with defenses being pretty heavily boosted. So even though Magnezone is specs, Araquanid has massive special defense, maybe not enough to take it out.
Yeah, Magnezone switching in for the Porygon 2, so Gavin may be taking some additional damage on that Magnezone. Marowak does protect this turn. Hariyama does not go for a fake out at all, goes for the liquidation onto that Magnezone, so Araquanid catching the Magnezone on the switch and knock off into the Protect, and Gavin making the wrong call there and Enosh making the right one.
Yeah, that's huge there for Enosh, catching that Magnezone with a liquidation because another one should take it out. Magnezone right now can't really do a whole lot because of Marowak, but this Hariyama knockoff threatens Marowak pretty hard right now. It'll be interesting to see, though, if Gavin decides to retreat the Magnezone, save it for later, perhaps when Trick Room runs out.
Yep, has to save that Magnezone and take care of this Marowak in the Trick Room. Porygon 2 keeps getting the attack boost, not the special attack boost it may want. We'll take another liquidation from Enosh's Araquanid, and Knockoff finally connecting with Marowak, picks up the KO thanks to that Guts boost. So now Gavin has 3 Pokemon to take out this one Araquanid.
Yeah, Trick Room is still
and
up.
I'm not sure if that will happen.
Yeah, it's going to be tough because of the 2 stockpiles already, plus the Z stockpile capability to heal if Araquanid ever gets too low. But it's going to be really interesting to see because I don't know the damage calcs, and that Magnezone is spec, so it will do a lot of damage to the Araquanid. But these two Pokemon right now, Porygon and Hariyama, they can't really do anything to Araquanid. Just try and chip it down a little bit.
Yeah, Enosh just going on the offensive with that liquidation, trying to get the Hariyama off the field. Actually, so much damage.
Critical hit. No wonder.
Whew,
that's huge because it forces
Z.
It forces the Z stockpile.
All right, well, Porygon 2 does go for the Trick Room again to return the dimensions to normal. That critical hit onto the Araquanid, like you mentioned, actually, because the Trick Room is reset, may not be able to even get that off.
Yeah, it depends, though. Because I don't know what Porygon's moveset is. If it has something like Thunderbolt like we see here, we'll see if this is enough.
Oh, my gosh. Oh, and the paralysis. So Araquanid is paralyzed. Hariyama does go for the close combat, and that will pick up the Araquanid. So Enosh going down game 1. Gavin will take the first set.
Yeah,
first game.
That's a really interesting game 1. Enosh's Araquanid, instead of choosing to go for a lot of damage while it was out, went for the stockpiles, but then those boosts just didn't do anything because of that close combat at the end. But even without the crit, Gavin may have still been able to pull that off. Magnezone was one more hit away from fainting. However, it is Choice Specs, and it could have done a lot of damage there. But we'll never know.
Yeah, and that's really important, not knowing that answer, because going into game 2, Enosh doesn't know that answer.
Yeah, he doesn't know how much that Magnezone is really capable of doing to his Araquanid. But I think if I'm Enosh, I continue to focus on the Tapu Fini as well as the Araquanid. I think those are really strong against Gavin's team, especially with the Marowak support. And wow, we got some quick selections there.
Both of these players know exactly what they're doing, what they want to do. Enosh Shachar, his tournament life is on the line. He went undefeated in Swiss and has been undefeated in the top cut. Another loss here will send him home with another runners-up trophy, whereas Gavin Michaels, if he wins this match, he will be our champion here in San Jose, defeating Enosh in the finals for a second time. Gavin going ahead and switching out the Magnezone and the Porygon 2 for his leads versus Enosh's Tapu Fini and Crocodile. So switching things up for Gavin here.
Yeah, Enosh does have Substitute on his Tapu Fini, so this could be a chance to get that up because you have to imagine Gavin will not let his Magnezone get hit by a Crocodile ground type attack.
Right. And Tapu Fini behind a Substitute, we've already seen Calm Mind on it.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to take it out, especially if Hariyama is in the back again. Then it won't be able to fake out and flinch the Tapu Fini. Tapu Fini can just go for a Moonblast on it. So yeah, this is definitely a good start to Game 2 for Enosh. We'll see. I wouldn't go for the Z ground move onto Magnezone yet because you don't want to waste that unless he goes for the Porygon 2 with that target. That's certainly an option, but if I'm Enosh, I definitely want to get a Substitute up here with Tapu Fini while I can.
If you can. Because Gavin could just continue reading it and go stick around and go for that Thunderbolt.
Yeah, but then you just lose 25% of your health because I imagine Tapu Fini is going to be the fastest out of Gavin's 2 Pokemon.
All right, well, Magnezone switching out for Araquanid, and it looks like we are going to see the the Groundium Z move. Tectonic Rage, Crocodile surrounding itself with its Z power, targeting down one of Gavin's Pokemon. Which one did Enosh target? Looks like he targeted the Magnezone, so going straight for the win there. If he had caught that Magnezone, instead catches the Araquanid, deals a lot of damage back. Almost a critical hit. That is so much damage that Araquanid had to take, and Tapu Fini gets the Substitute up. Porygon 2 will be able to get the Trick Room, but Tapu Fini behind that Substitute and all of that damage on Araquanid.
That's big. Araquanid just lost so much HP there. Tapu Fini gets a free Substitute up. And Enosh hasn't lost any HP on his Crocodile in exchange. He can just safely switch it out, save it for later to take out the Magnezone as the game progresses, and just pick up a KO on that Araquanid that doesn't have much HP left.
Yeah, I mean, Enosh has some pretty safe switch-ins, too. I mean, if he has his own Araquanid, Porygon 2, and Gavin's Araquanid, not super threatening.
No, so Enosh predictably switching that out, but goes to Marowak.
Marowak is the switch-in for Enosh. Araquanid using Protect for Gavin, so potentially there was the chance to catch that Marowak with a with a liquidation, but the Thunderbolt will be redirected to Marowak's to Enosh's Marowak, and Tapu Fini able to get this Moonblast off onto Araquanid.
Yeah, so it ended up being a good switch by Enosh since that Araquanid protected and did not go for a liquidation onto that Crocodile slot. Marowak was able to come in for free and save the Tapu Fini substitute by redirecting the Thunderbolt.
Such a risky switch in though against an Araquanid.
Yeah, it definitely
from a Crocodile.
Is. Yep. It was a really risky switch, but Enosh has been on his game the entire tournament, so he made what ended up being the correct play.
Yeah, got Marowak in for free. Still has to be a little bit scared of that Araquanid, but blowing the Protect that turn will allow Tapu Fini to potentially hit it with another Moonblast.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it KOs. It does not have much HP left, but it does have massive special defense. And Tapu Fini, not exactly the most offensive of Pokemon either. But if you're Enosh, you can't let Marowak get hit by the Araquanid liquidation.
Wow, double protect from that Araquanid. So Gavin gets the double protect off Marowak, also going for a protect on Enosh's side. Marowak protecting, Porygon 2 gets the Ice Beam off onto the Marowak into protect, and the Moonblast from Tapu Fini into the protect. So just another turn of Trick Room stalled there, thanks to that double protect on Gavin.
Yeah, but that forces Enosh to really have to consider switching out his Marowak because Araquanid will be slower and will be able to get off a liquidation here before it goes down. If Enosh has something in the back to switch into that, then you know it's perfectly fine. If he has his own Araquanid, for example, he could bring it in and resist that hit. But if it's Crocodile and something else that really doesn't want to get hit by a liquidation, then it's a tough spot for Enosh thanks to that double protect.
Yeah, even worse than just a liquidation, possibly a Hydro Vortex coming out from that Araquanid.
Yeah, and that would do massive damage even if you resist it, just because Araquanid is so powerful.
Well, both of these players taking their time in this finals. Marowak will switch out. Enosh does not want to leave it in against an Araquanid. Does have his own in the back to take any kind of water type attacks coming out from Gavin. Looks like it is going to be the Hydro Vortex from Gavin's Araquanid. So powerful, this Z move with the Water Bubble ability, with the Waterium Z. Hydro Vortex is going to connect most likely onto the other Araquanid. Yep, it is going to be the other Araquanid, and the Itsy Bitsy Spider went up the water spout, but down came the rain and washed Araquanid almost out. Not very effective, still able to hang on, but the Porygon 2 is able to get the Thunderbolt off onto the Araquanid and doesn't pick up the KO, hangs on with just 6 hit points. Tapu Fini able to get the Moonblast off onto Gavin's Araquanid. Is it going to be enough? It is enough. Enosh just able to do enough damage to knock out Gavin's Araquanid.
Yeah, so Enosh barely hanging in there with his own Araquanid, but it shows just how key that double protect was because it allowed Gavin to deal so much damage into that slot. Made the right play by Thunderbolting with the Porygon because Araquanid, if Marowak stayed in, it would have gotten knocked out. The Thunderbolt would have redirected to the Tapu Fini, and then if Araquanid is in the back, then you can hopefully get the knockout, but Enosh is just, he trained his Araquanid to just be so bulky, especially.
Yeah, I mean, we've already seen the stockpile. Now, Araquanid at 6 hit points. If Enosh is able to get off a Z stockpile, that would be huge.
Oh, it sure would be. But got to watch out for Fake Out this turn, so this isn't the turn yet to go for that.
Yeah, and we've also seen Hariyama show Feint, so even if Araquanid protects, not necessarily safe, actually just goes for the Fake Out onto Araquanid. Araquanid will feint to not feint, but to Fake Out on Hariyama's side, and Thunderbolt is going to connect to the substitute, knock out that substitute for Enosh's Tapu Fini. Although it still is threatening that Hariyama with the Moonblast, Tapu Fini is going to get the Moonblast off onto Hariyama, dealing a lot of damage back, not quite a KO though.
No, and the Trick Room's over, so perhaps that's why Enosh decided not to save his Araquanid for later. So he may have never gotten another chance to Z stockpile. Perhaps he was hoping Hariyama would go for like a knockoff in that slot to try and predict a Marowak switch in, but especially he probably knows that Hariyama is Feint as well, so he figured this is as good a time as any to at least go for it.
Yeah. Have to go for those sometimes, but we do have Hariyama and Porygon 2 out for Gavin alongside Tapu Fini and Marowak. And I have to feel pretty good if I'm Enosh here. The Marowak is dealing threatening Porygon 2 with a lot of damage. Tapu Fini, we just saw how much damage it can deal to Hariyama, and only having that Magnezone in the back.
Yep, and with Trick Room expiring, Tapu Fini will go first.
Tapu Fini does take a little bit of damage from Feint, but is going to put in the substitute. Marowak with the Flare Blitz will connect with the Hariyama, just trying to make sure that Magnezone didn't get a free switch in there, picking up a KO, and it's just going to be Porygon 2 and Magnezone for Gavin. And Magnezone's a really cool Pokemon, but it can't really do much to a Marowak, especially the Alolan Marowak.
Yeah, so I think Enosh has this game wrapped up. Really well played with the combination of his Tapu Fini and Marowak. We mentioned at the start of the battle how that combination, his water types along with the Marowak, will be key in this matchup against Gavin, because Magnezone is really the one big answer to Araquanid and Tapu Fini. But it's Marowak, it's still at full HP. It hasn't even had a chance to really do anything, and the game's already over. So
there's still a third Pokemon as well.
Yeah, so I think Gavin will have to go back to the drawing board in this game 3.
Enosh showing calm mind on that Tapu Fini, just going to make sure that there is no way that Gavin will be able to cheese him out of this win with that Specs Magnezone and the Porygon 2, short of, some critical hits. Hidden Power being shown by Magnezone, super effective, most likely ground there, but not enough to pick up the KO onto Marowak, which does go for the Flare Blitz. Easy one-hit KO onto Magnezone, and the Marowak will feint alongside that Magnezone thanks to the recoil.
Yeah, but at this point, it's worth it. There's still a substitute Tapu Fini with a Calm Mind. There's a Crocodile in the back. Things aren't looking good here for Gavin at all.
Yeah, the substitute
doesn't even break it.
Oh, no.
Tapu Fini's just that bulky, especially after the Calm Mind.
Yeah, Gavin, that Porygon 2 really tried, but Tapu Fini is just too much there. Enosh will bring out his Crocodile, his final Pokemon in the back. But with that Calm Mind and the substitute, that should be game 2, and we are looking at a game 3.
Yeah, just what we were hoping for. These two titans going at it again in their rematch from 2013 Nationals, and it's going to a game 3.
Crocodile with the crunch onto Porygon 2. Gavin wants to play this out. Tapu Fini with its Moonblast as well. Gavin just trying to see if he can get a little bit more information out of Enosh's team, or to spend this time thinking about what he wants to do for game 3. Testing his calcs onto Crocodile. Looks like that's going to be a 2-hit KO, which is probably about all of the information that Gavin can get out of this now.
Yeah, with the game being over, he can go for that calc, see how much it does. It's also interesting because it's Gavin won't know this exactly, but it looks like it's right on the edge of would a +1 Ice Beam KO the Crocodile, and it doesn't look like it, but it would be very close.
All right, well, Enosh is just going to clean up this Porygon 2 with that Moonblast, and that is game 2. Enosh keeps his tournament alive, and we are headed to a deciding game 3.
Yeah, Enosh going much with what he went with in game 1. He just, I think, played a lot better in this second game, identifying his win condition. His Araquanid went down much earlier this time, but instead it was the Tapu Fini that was able to sweep Gavin's team. Whereas in the reverse, his Tapu Fini went down right away, and it was Araquanid, which wasn't really doing any damage, just setting up the stockpiles. Marowak was also not much of a factor in that first game, so much better played by Enosh there.
Yeah, I think the adjustment that Enosh made to set up with the Tapu Fini instead of with the Araquanid is probably what won him that game. Just looking at these teams and the way those two games played out, Gavin struggled way more dealing with that Tapu Fini than he did with the Araquanid.
Yeah, exactly. And getting that substitute up on the first turn, that was key because Enosh had such a great lead matchup there with the Crocodile threatening the Magnezone. Just being able to get up the substitute there with no fear at all, because if Magnezone attacks, well, it's just going to get feinted by the Crocodile before it can even move. So it's perfectly played by Enosh. I don't expect much to change in game 3 from his side. I think Gavin is the one who's going to need to adjust at least his leads, or at least a little bit here in this game 3.
All right, well, we are into game 3 again. Winner of this game is our new champion. The loser goes home as a runner-up. For Enosh, that will have happened a number of times. For Gavin, he does not want to finally lose to Enosh here in the finals. Leads are going to be Crocodile and Tapu Fini, while Gavin going back to the Hariyama and Porygon 2 lead that he found success with in Game 1.
Yeah, so Hariyama can get a fake out off this turn. However, you don't want to let Tapu Fini either get a sub up or Moonblast the Hariyama, but you also don't want Crocodile to get his Groundium Z move off onto either of these Pokemon. Probably the Hariyama, just because of how much damage that would do.
All right, well, Gavin is afraid of that Tapu Fini. Will go ahead and fake out, while Enosh is ready to use the Groundium Z on that Crocodile. The Tectonic Rage will target down either this Porygon 2 or the Hariyama. Most likely the Hariyama, as you mentioned. Yes, it is going to be the Hariyama falling all the way through the Earth, journeying to the center of the Earth, where it only finds a whole heck of a lot of damage. But Hariyama still able to survive for that turn. Will be able to set the Trick Room up on Porygon 2 and get the Flame Orb to allow Hariyama to start threatening some Pokemon like that Crocodile under Trick Room.
Yeah, so Enosh, like usual, he's always got a switch in ready to come in. It'll be interesting to see if Gavin predicts this. We saw in Game 2, he was okay with Thunderbolting that Crocodile slot, expecting a switch into potential Araquanid. Perhaps we'll see something like an Ice Beam and a knockoff predicting a Marowak switch in. There's a lot we could see Gavin go for, just trying to outpredict Enosh.
One of the things we could see him go for is switching out the Porygon 2 for Araquanid. Crocodile going for the Protect there, possibly allowing that Araquanid to get in for relatively free. Hariyama does go for the knockoff into that Protect, hoping to catch a Marowak on the switch-in, but Tapu Fini setting up that substitute.
Yeah, but now Gavin can double into that Crocodile slot with a Liquidation and a Close Combat. That would pick up the KO onto the Crocodile, and if Marowak comes in, Liquidation would KO that. I don't know if Gavin or if Enosh really has anything that can switch into. I guess his own Araquanid could take a Close Combat and a Z Liquidation, but, well, maybe even not. I mean, we saw last game just how much damage that did.
Well, it looks like there will be no switches and no protects as Araquanid goes for the Liquidation onto Tapu Fini. It is going to be able to break the substitute. Gavin really prioritizing breaking Enosh's Tapu Fini's substitute. Going for the Close Combat. Gavin is very afraid of that Pokemon this time around. Using that Close Combat, just trying to get as much damage as possible, while Tapu Fini goes for the Calm Mind here.
Yeah, interesting play by Gavin there, deciding to go for that little bit of chip damage onto the Tapu Fini instead of targeting that Crocodile.
The crunch from Crocodile, though, will mean that Hariyama does get another shot at these Pokemon.
Yeah, so that's good for Gavin. He will get one more turn of Hariyama.
Oh, right. Hariyama did not get the burn because of the misty terrain.
Yeah, one of the positives there for Tapu Fini. Definitely interesting to see that interaction, but even so, Close Combat would still deal a lot of damage to Crocodile, although it is intimidated. But you have to imagine it would have been better than simply targeting the Tapu Fini, unless Gavin believes his Z Liquidation threatens a KO on Tapu Fini from that HP range. Maybe that's what he was going for. Possibly.
It will be a switch from Enosh, so that Calm Mind boosted Tapu Fini will switch out for Enosh's own Araquanid. And it will be the Hydro Vortex again coming out from Gavin's own Araquanid. It still could break the Protect on Crocodile and deal some decent damage as well, but most likely targeting down the Araquanid on the switch-in.
Yeah, and we saw last game how much damage that does, and boy, does it do a lot of damage.
Yeah, there it is as Araquanid gets flushed down the train, deals so much damage. And another Close Combat coming out from Hariyama onto Araquanid. That's all free damage.
Yeah, just barely not enough to pick up the KO on that Araquanid.
Don't you think it misses its burn right about now?
Yeah, definitely. Either the burn or the lack of Intimidate would have let Hariyama pick up the knockout there, but alas, it's intimidated. It doesn't have the burn, so it's just not doing enough damage to that Araquanid. But the Crocodile is still threatened, although Tapu Fini could come right back in and take a resisted hit. But it's not a terrible spot here for Gavin because the Araquanid, which is a big threat from Enosh's side, is down again. The Tapu Fini is also weakened.
Yeah, well, Gavin will switch out his Araquanid for Porygon 2, just trying to keep the Araquanid safer for a little bit longer. Enosh again going for the Protect on Crocodile. I think Crocodile's done more protecting than attacking this game. Araquanid's Liquidation will finally pick up the KO onto Hariyama, so no more free damage coming out from Gavin, but Trick Room should be ending. Yep, they do end this turn, and the mist disappears. It's a little bit too late for that Hariyama.
The turn Hariyama goes down is when the mist disappears. Unfortunate for the Hariyama, because with that burn, this would have been a different battle, but Tapu Fini really coming in clutch there, preventing that burn, because that close combat would have knocked out the Araquanid.
Yeah, all of that extra damage that that Gavin was missing out on because he could not activate his guts really coming to play. Now Araquanid out for Gavin. You have to wonder if he switched out his Araquanid under Trick Room, switching it back in now, if he expects to be a faster Araquanid than Enosh.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point. Or at least the Porygon should be faster than the Araquanid, and then Gavin's own Araquanid can focus on that Crocodile. But we know Enosh still has Tapu Fini in the back to take a potential water move targeting the Crocodile. So it'll be interesting to see how Enosh decides to play this. Gavin, despite being down a Pokemon, isn't in a terrible spot here. Definitely has the offensive pressure on this turn.
Yeah, Gavin may be down a Pokemon, but I have the sneaking suspicion that he is up on Pokemon hit points right now. Crocodile is going to switch out for Tapu Fini on Enosh's side. Tapu Fini now back to reset the misty terrain. Of course, Hariyama has already fainted, so no worries there. But it looks like Gavin will protect his Araquanid, does not want to take the damage there. And did this Porygon 2, was it able to go for it? It looks like it, so the lunge coming out means that Porygon 2 used that Trick Room. So maybe Gavin actually thinks his Araquanid is slower.
Yeah, maybe it's a speed tie between both Araquanids. It is common to train your Trick Room Araquanids to be very slow to take advantage of that. Maybe both players have trained their Araquanids to be equal in speed.
Yeah, which you'd hate to see it come down to a 50-50 if that's the case, but...
Yeah, it might have to, although it's not like the Araquanids will be dealing much damage to each other. But I wonder if a Marowak is a potential switch in here, simply because of Thunderbolt. Well, Porygon's coming out, so not the case.
Wow, well, Gavin switches the Porygon out for Magnezone. Enosh will switch out his Tapu Fini for Crocodile again, just cycling those Intimidates onto Gavin's Araquanid, just trying to make sure that Gavin can't deal as much damage as he would like to. Will be another lunge coming out from Enosh. Looks like he is very happy that he won the potential speed tie there. He drops the attack on Araquanid, and a Liquidation coming out with that Intimidate with the lunge. Should still be enough to pick up the KO onto Enosh's Araquanid, and it is.
Yeah, so Gavin finally picks up a KO. Like you mentioned, he was up in possibly HP for his whole team, but finally gets on the board, evens the score at 3-3 right now. Crocodile threatens this Magnezone really hard. However, with Trick Room up, the Araquanid definitely threatening the Crocodile. However, with its lowered attack thanks to the lunge and the Intimidate, won't be able to pick up the KO, but in combination with Magnezone, possibly. But now we see the Marowak, which really threatening to both of these Pokemon.
Yeah, this is a good position for Enosh, just having that Marowak able to threaten both Pokemon. Of course, depending on how that Magnezone is trained, you'll have to see how fast they are in order to see who goes first here in the Trick Room. Of course, that lunge and the Intimidate both doing so much work on Araquanid, potentially protecting that Marowak and that Crocodile.
Yeah, we also know Magnezone is spec, so it can't just protect itself and have Araquanid switch out to try and reset its stats. So one of these Pokemon is going to have to be left vulnerable on Gavin's side. And Marowak is pretty slow, so you could get an attack off before the Magnezone.
All right, well, Gavin's going to switch Magnezone out for Porygon 2, just using the switch in there for a little bit of positioning. Switching back, Porygon 2 finally getting the special attack boost, while Araquanid is going to be able to get the Protect off this time and not take any damage from the protecting Marowak. And then Crocodile also going for the Protect, but it fails.
Yeah, interesting to see that Enosh wanted to go for the Protects there, considering he definitely was threatening Gavin's Pokemon. It does depend how they're trained, though, of course. Magnezone is naturally faster than the Marowak, but with how each player trained their Pokemon, perhaps the Magnezone would have actually been slower, therefore faster in Trick Room.
Likely just trying to see what Gavin wanted to knock out, which Pokemon Gavin put on higher priority.
Yeah, it's just with the Intimidate and the Lunge lowering Araquanid's attack, it's not threatening a KO on either of these Pokemon. So We'll see what Enosh has in store, why he wanted to go for the Protect. Perhaps he'll show us this turn if he had something up his sleeve. If he's able to handle this Porygon 2 just fine and is ready to target down that Araquanid slot and pick up a KO this turn.
Yeah, Araquanid is fleeing for Magnezone. Anytime that Magnezone switches in is risky. Marowak switching out for Tapu Fini. So Marowak also going to run away from all of the damage. Porygon 2 with the Ice Beam. Remember, it did get the special attack boost onto Crocodile. Deals a lot of damage, but not enough to pick up the KO. Crunch coming out from Crocodile onto Magnezone. Of course, going to deal some decent damage there as well, but that is about as free a switch-in that Magnezone can expect to get.
Yeah, I'm thinking why Enosh just simply didn't attack, because clearly Gavin was not happy with his position on the field at all, with Magnezone out against the Crocodile and Marowak, and with the Araquanid with its 2 lowered stages of attack out there as well in KO range from either a Crocodile Crunch or a Marowak attack. So I'm curious why Enosh didn't decide to go for an attack, instead just protecting and then eventually switching out.
Yeah, may just not have felt comfortable with the -2 calcs on Araquanid. Crocodile switching out for the Marowak does catch the Lightning Bolt from Magnezone. Again, that Magnezone being Specs means that it will have to switch out this turn. Oh, actually the Thunderbolt came from the Porygon 2. The Marowak being Specs chose Hidden Power Ground, dealing a lot of damage back to the Marowak. So best of both worlds, get the Porygon to use Thunderbolt if you need it.
Yeah, but it does protect the Tapu Fini. Marowak is free to protect, and there's no way for this substitute on Tapu Fini to get broken, because Magnezone is locked into that Hidden Power Ground. And also, since Trick Room expired, Marowak, if Enosh feels that he is the fastest on the field, Marowak could even just go for a Flare Blitz into that Magnezone slot, knowing that it can't protect since it's Specs, and if Araquanid comes in, it would knock that out. So
Tapu Fini could even just start firing off like Muddy Waters at this point.
Muddy Waters, Moonblast, Calm Mind, even if Enosh wants to set up, which he does.
He always wants to set up.
Saw that we saw that a Thunderbolt from Porygon 2 can't even break the sub, so...
Although this time Porygon 2 did get the special attack boost, I believe.
True, so then it would be able to knock out the sub unless Enosh gets another Calm Mind up.
Yeah, well, Magnezone is going to be able to get that Hidden Power off onto Marowak, so Marowak will go down. If Gavin is able to switch this Magnezone out, may still be able to get some KOs there. Porygon 2 trying to double up on that slot, catch the Crocodile on the switch-in just in case.
Yeah, clearly predicting a Crocodile to come in there, while Enosh expecting his Marowak to be faster, perhaps, to get a Flare Blitz off before going down. But at least no Trick Room is up for when this Crocodile comes in. So if Enosh decides to go for maybe a Muddy Water and a Crunch onto the Magnezone slot, he'll at least either knock out the Magnezone or knock out the Araquanid.
Yeah, definitely. Although, I mean, I feel like you just switch out the Magnezone into Araquanid, Ice Beam that Crocodile, and then use that Specs Thunderbolt.
Yep. So that's why I'm really curious why Enosh...
Maybe Fini needs to keep Calm Minding here.
Yeah, I'm just curious why Enosh wasn't trying to target down Gavin's Pokemon a couple turns ago when he had the opportunity.
Well, it is going to be the Araquanid switching in, and Snarl coming out from the Crocodile, dropping the special attack of Porygon 2, going to make it much more difficult for that Porygon 2 to break the substitute. Enosh does go for the Muddy Waters, which we do know can cause accuracy drops as well, which could be important. Some good damage onto both Pokemon there. Not very effective on the Araquanid. A critical hit on Porygon 2.
There's the accuracy drop.
Accuracy drop, but Trick Room.
Yeah, no accuracy drop on Porygon. Ice Beam will still be 100% accurate and able to take out the Crocodile. If Gavin decides he doesn't want to risk the Araquanid firing off a Liquidation into that Crocodile and missing.
All right, well, Porygon 2 and Araquanid just waiting to get this Crocodile off the field so Magnezone can come in and do work. Although Tapu Fini behind that substitute with Snarl off onto Porygon 2 and a Calm Mind boost. If Enosh can keep the substitute up for Tapu Fini, when Magnezone switches in, there may be a win condition still.
Yeah, there's still an out here for Enosh, simply because he's behind the sub, has the Calm Mind. Porygon won't be able to break the sub anymore thanks to that Snarl. It'll be interesting to see if Enosh protects this Crocodile or not.
He does not.
So
Liquidation.
So Gavin might be doubling into this slot. This could be a really, really big turning point for Enosh if this Crocodile stays around.
Yeah, Ice Beam coming in from Porygon 2 as well onto the Crocodile. So just trying to break the substitute with that Araquanid, making sure that Enosh can't just stay behind the substitute the whole time. Muddy Water again coming out from the Porygon 2 and connecting with the Araquanid. Going to be enough damage to pick up the KO onto Araquanid and some good damage back onto Porygon 2. Does get the accuracy drop this time, but now Gavin gets a free switch in for Choice Specs Magnezone.
Yeah, so not a good spot here for Enosh at all.
Tapu Fini is real bulky and does have a Calm Mind.
Yeah, so he can protect this turn to gain an extra turn of Leftovers recovery.
I don't believe he has a Protect, unfortunately.
Then he won't be able to get an extra turn of recovery from Leftovers. He's just going to have to hope Porygon misses Thunderbolt and Magnezone Thunderbolt doesn't KO, and then the Muddy Water just does work, but nope, we see it connect.
Porygon 2 connects with its Thunderbolt, deals a good amount of damage here, but here is the big one. Magnezone's Thunderbolt onto Tapu Fini. It is enough, and Gavin Michaels defeats Enosh Shachar once again and becomes our regional champion here in San Jose.
Yeah, so no revenge there for Enosh. Gavin
sending Enosh home with another second-place trophy.
Yep, just as Gavin said before the match. So, boy, that was a really exciting match, though.
It was so fun.
It really was. Game 3 in the finals. Couldn't ask for anything better between two top players.
Yeah.
East versus West, two players who have played before in a national final. This finals had everything we wanted.
Yeah, I mean, that was just such high-level play between both of those players. It was exactly the match I hoped to get out of both of them. And, you know, I'm really excited to see both these players doing well this format. I think it both speaks well of the format and also gives me a lot of hope for the rest of the circuit.
Yeah, it really does. I just love this format being much slower and bulkier. The games aren't over really quickly, so there's a lot more room for skill to be shown throughout these matches. All the switches players do, all the board position they try and control. So it's really exciting to watch those longer matches because it gives these players more opportunity to show just how skilled they are.
Yeah, and I don't think there was a better showcase of skill here at the regional championships than that final match. I mean, just the level of play, you know, protecting Crocodile, protecting Marowak, all of the switches that Enosh was showing, and then Gavin being able to make those reads, which are why he was the national champion. Just the understanding of the game to know, and also the understanding of his opponent, because they have played each other quite a bit over the years, just knowing, you know, what the right move is, even when it's a risky move that most people wouldn't predict.
Yeah, he knows how Enosh likes to play. I remember that one turn he went for the Z liquidation as well as the Thunderbolt into the Crocodile switch. I mean, that was a great play. If Enosh stays in, you know, it's gonna the Thunderbolt would go into the Tapu Fini after the Crocodile gets knocked out, but he knows Enosh likely to switch into the Araquanid, and that can almost pick up a KO right there. So Gavin, he was on his game here. He made a number of really good reads throughout this entire tournament. And he had the team to back it up. He had a really powerful team, a lot of bulk, and in that series he was able to protect his Magnezone, which he identified as the win condition.
Yeah, so many like weird plays around getting the Marowak in safely, keeping the Magnezone healthy. That was just such a fun, like it was an elegant match of Pokemon.
Yeah, it really was. I love watching matches like that. Couldn't ask for anything else.
All right, well, one thing that you can ask for is an interview with our newly crowned regional champion, Gavin Michaels, which we will do just after a break. Stay tuned.